back. It's the Dr. Cloud Show. It's good to have you here back with us again as we do one more day of the fight against dysfunction. We are developing herd immunity against dysfunction, one dynamic at a time. And that's what we do here. And I'm glad that you have joined us. We're off to a great new start this year. Been getting lots of great just interaction with you guys. You know, the postings you're doing and the emails you write in and the callers on the program. Everybody's off to a new year, starting afresh, right? What is that? There's that verse. What does God say somewhere? You know, behold, I'm doing a new thing. That's the way he puts it. Well, you know what? We're supposed to do what God does, right? So let's do a new thing this year. And some area of your life, don't want to redo last year in some areas. In some areas, you might want to. You know, some of you really were thriving in some areas. And you go, gosh, if I could do that again, I would be really happy. Others are not feeling that way as much, you know, or some one particular area. I mean, there's some stuff last year I don't want to repeat. I had spine surgery and a knee replacement. I'm done, I hope, with that. So I'm going to change. I've already fixed both knees. I mean, what else can happen, right? Oh, I shouldn't say that. You know, that's true. You know, the book of James says, don't be so certain about what you're going to be doing later. You know, you don't know what's going to happen unless God allows it to happen. So anyway, can't get too arrogant about that, but I hope to have a different knee or a different year. I'm so lost in that way. And I hope whatever you're planning that is good comes to pass, if it's a good thing. All righty. We are going to take calls. Let me give you the number that we're going to be doing, as is the same number. I hope you guys have this on speed dial. You know, if I were you, I'd just call in the middle of the night and ask Albie all your questions. He's our the ones that takes your calls when you call in on the program. 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. Hey, and Albie just responded. He said, ha, I guess that means he's totally open to your phone calls at 3 a.m.
Let's do
that
this.
Would be Pacific time. See, right there. 844-940-2774 is the number to get on the air. And so call me. We're going to get to the thought for the day in just a moment. But right now, I want to remind you of something, a couple of things. First of all, boundaries.me, if you're not familiar with it. Now, some of you think you are because you get emails, you know, that are just the stuff we send out saying hi and giving little tips every day and this, that, and the other. That's not boundaries.me. Boundaries, that means you don't email this. Boundaries.me is sort of like a club that you join, right? It's a bunch of people that are really, really, really serious about growing in some area of life or learning about all of the stuff that I talked about. It's basically, in one sense, it's kind of my whole content world way of thinking in one spot, like a Netflix, if you will. It's a platform we built. And what I've done is, and we're adding them all the time, 90 something courses up there so far about all these areas of life, your clinical issues, your relationship issues, your goals and dreams, all of that. And it's kind of my spin on all that, how I tend to look at it when I consult with people, when I treat people, when I do it for myself, all of that. It's all on boundaries.me. So go to that website, www.boundaries.me, and join. I mean, it's cheap, right? I think it's going to be a little more than a fancy cup of coffee every month. But you get all of that content. Plus you get about a dozen full webinars included with the boundaries.me plus membership. So go there and do that. Also, speaking of boundaries.me, if you go to that site, you go to boundaries.me and do a /trust. then you can sign up for the 2 hour plus webinar. I always say 2 hours, and lately I've been going over because there's just so much to talk about. But you don't have to sit there for 2 hours. You can stream it anytime you want. But it is going to be live February 21st. Everybody come join us, and it is one on trust. How do you build trust? What builds it? What are the actual components that make us trust each other? How is it broken? Who do you trust? Who can you trust? And why? And do you know why you can? And who should you not be trusting? And who should you not be trusting in some circumstances, but other circumstances you can? And if you have a betrayal of trust, how do you repair that? And is it possible? And when should you forgive and reconcile and trust again? And how do you know? Well, we're going to be talking about all that, all things about trust, how it's built, how it's broken, how to repair it, how to continue it, how to make it stronger, how to know it when you see it and know it when you don't, all of that stuff. Go to boundaries.me/trust to sign up for that. And there, if you go now, there's early bird pricing for that webinar. And so you will save some pennies. All righty. Boundaries.me/trust. Okay, guys. Guess what? It is time to go into the for the day. And as you know, in the thought for the day, I basically talk about two categories in one topic. And the one topic today, we've entitled, I think, something like this. I don't know what the exact words are that we chose, but it's something like, watch out for the little stuff or the little things, whatever that means, or however I put it. And here's the deal. Here's what I wanted you to look at. When I said one topic, two areas, you know, the Bible and science are kind of where I hang out, and the ways those two say the same things. So interesting how many people see science and faith as opposed to one another. And that's not what so many great scientists will tell you. Astrophysicists, microbiologists, neuroscientists, all of them write about how this stuff just proves our faith. Or not all of them, not the ones that don't have faith. But this isn't an IQ question, whether or not to have faith. It's a faith question. Science and faith do go together. All right. So anyway, back to our topic for the day. Did you know that you're basically, and this is going to sound dramatic, right? And I'll just say it. There's an old saying by somebody. I should look this up. It's one of the great philosophers. Albie, could you look this up for me? You're a philosopher. Someone said a person's character is their destiny.
Ooh.
I think it was one of the Greeks, I think. But basically, in a very, very, very real way, that is true. Now, there are other components. Obviously, there are other forces that come into a person's life other than their character. But here's what that means. The way the Bible puts it is that it has to do with the tree meaning you, how you're made up, how you're glued together. The tree is going to produce fruit, and fruit is kind of the results we get in life, right? And how the tree is doing is going to say a lot about what the results are, okay? And the way Jesus put it was, make the tree good. Because a bad tree cannot produce good fruits, and a good tree cannot produce bad fruits. So interesting. I know you guys are probably getting sick of my knee metaphors, but when my knee was pre-replaced last year, no matter how much I tried, that thing was screwed up. And no matter how much I tried to produce a good walk or a good gait or a walk without pain, it was not able to do it. Okay. Now, after I got it replaced, and I got the fake knee in there, the new one, sort of the redeemed knee in this metaphor, I get up and expect to limp or fall or walk, and it hurt. And I get up, and it doesn't hurt. It can't hurt by taking a step. It can't be off one way or another by taking a step because it's different. Okay, that's our character, and by character, I do not mean moral character only. Moral character is like a foundation that the rest of character is, kind of stands on. But if somebody hadn't learned to not lie, cheat, and steal, then the rest of all their character traits aren't even going to matter because they're going to wreck their lives. Liars, cheaters, and stealers. How about that? All you Pittsburgh fans. No, I didn't mean it that way. Liars, cheaters, and thieves. That's not all of what character is. It's foundational, and without it, you're just screwed. But on top of that is a bunch of other stuff, like how we process failure, perseverance, courage, delay of gratification, impulsivity, ability to connect, a bunch of different stuff. All right. Now, when we talk about character and it being our destiny, and it kind of determines how we're going to end up performing in life, a little piece of that, okay, a little bitty piece of that. Some people try to make more of this than you actually can, but I say a little piece, a piece of that. It's not a small piece, but it's not the whole banana. A piece of that is the tiny little things that you either think or do or feel. And by feel, I mean allow yourself to feel too. Tiny things you do, think, or feel that are tiny things, little bitty things. But little bitty things repeated become neurological and characterological and psychological structures inside of us. And the structure becomes the tree. And then that begins to determine our path and the kind of fruits that we're going to have. Now, a lot's been written on this in a lot of different arenas. What are some of the more simplistic ways of looking at this that you've seen popularized in recent years, if you're into all the pop psychology stuff, is there's a lot written on habits. You see a lot of people really, really writing on habits. And that's really, really good. That's really interesting because a lot of the books are acting like, oh, that new discovery. Oh, really? It's kind of rat psychology from the 50s. Really, there's that's what Skinner said. You got a cue, which cues you to a craving, which makes you do a behavior, and then there's a reward, and that tends to happen again. All right. Well, great. Once, but you do something twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, all the time. See, it has become a habit. All right. Great example when you establish a pattern. We're doing New Year's resolutions. Okay. Some of you have said, I'm going to change this year. I'm going to get up every morning at 6, which if I don't have to, not happening. I'm a night owl, but I have to a lot of times. I can do it. But you've committed, that's your plan. It's not my plan, but it might be your plan. You're going to get up at 6 and you're going to go to the gym, or you're going to go for a walk, or you're going to go ride the bike, or you're going to have a quiet time, or you're going to do something. And the first 3 days, 4 days, you do it, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Now we're into day, what, 5? Yeah. The next morning, the alarm goes off. Yeah, I just don't feel like today. I'm going to sleep in. All right. Fine. There's no such thing as perfection. Great. Enjoy your snooze. Tomorrow morning, alarm goes off. Yeah, I just don't feel like I'm going to sleep in. Now you have entered different territory because you have repeated a small thing. And the likelihood that you're going to get up on day 3 is much greater if you got up on day 2 and skip day 1 than if you skip day 1 and because of that skip day 2. Because now you've started a little thing that's turning into a chain of behaviors. So you come home at night, you sit down and you start to watch a show, you want to veg a little bit, and that's fine. I mean, you do that. But then one night you decide to binge and watch 2 or 3 episodes and 2 or 3 more. And then the next night you kind of do that. And the next night, see, it gets easier and easier. And whether it's how you respond to your spouse, whether it's you're trying to build your dating life, you get a lot of dating calls, and somebody says, well, I'm gonna try to do this match and go out on this person, even you can go out with this person, even though I think it, and then you do it, and whatever happened that time, you didn't like it. So now it's the next time, and you hit a little resistance, and you go, nah, I'm not gonna do this time. You have started a pattern. It's little by little by little by little by little by little by little that we establish patterns, which patterns become identity and DNA, and that becomes a long-term path. I'll give you a great example that I hear all the time. I was talking to a young man that I mentor just the other day. And I was talking about, he wanted, he's in 20 years old or so. And one of the areas that he wants mentoring is in finances and how people get to be, financially secure. And so we're talking about a lot of elements of that. And I was talking about, well, first of all, it never starts with money. Money's not the issue. Your characterological patterns are the issue. They're going to determine really long-term financial well-being. And so we're talking about a bunch of those. And I think the second one that I talked to him about, after the first one being faith, the second one being giving. And I said, let me tell you a truth. I said, do you want to give? He said, yeah. I mean, this is a really, really giving kid. I mean, he serves people. He has a great heart and all that. But here's what I've seen. I can't tell you how many people, and these are successful people with all the outward trappings of success. Now, I'm not talking about the multi-zillionaires, but I'm talking about people that have successful lives. They own a home and they got a family and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they're always kind of, and they may not have a family, but they're doing fine. Okay. And I hear this over and over and over and over and over. They'll say, well, and they've got some project or something they're working on. They say, well, I want to make some money because I'd like to make some money so I could give back and give away. And I go, what are you giving now? What have you given for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Well, I'm waiting till I've got, you're not going to do it. It happens, but it is rare. What you see is people that are givers give when they're making $1,000 a month. They may not give much, but they give, and those little bitty habits. And then when they start making millions, they tend to continue to give, and they give more. It's our patterns of the tree. Same thing with savers. Same things with husbands and wives. Little bitty patterns about how you respond. Do you return a sharp remark with kindness or another sharp remark back? Do you get up and you get in the car and you look at the trash thing, you go, oh, I ought to take that out to the street. I'll wait. The little bitty things, little by little by little by little by little by little by little. That is how destinies are formed. So I just want you to think about some, and let's go back to the word habits, which is a very popular one today. There's a lot of good books out there on it. But if you can just establish very, very tiny little habits, and I'm talking about tiny little habits. In fact, I think there's even books written on tiny habits. Who was the researcher? Frog from, I think, Berkeley. Tiny habits? So I don't remember the name of it, but little bitty things that once you start them, they can change your life. And maybe you brush your teeth before you go to bed. You don't even think about it. But you had to think about it because mom or dad or somebody made you begin to establish a pattern. And now it's delegated to another part of your brain that you do it automatically. Anyway, so that's kind of the word for the day. I want you to watch the little things that you do and pick some little things and just do a few little things. It can start you down a path to make this a totally different year. Take a little walk. You know, take a big one. Take a little one. That's all. You've been saying you're going to develop your spiritual life? Spend 5 minutes. Little things. Spend 5 minutes reading the Psalms or read the book of John or something. Just 5 minutes. Just start a little thing. See what happens. Take your kid around the block. Oh, we're going to go on a big vacation and spend time together. No, that's not what great parents do. Once a year, spend time with their kid. No, they do little things every day. Little things. Do it with your spouse. Whatever. All righty. Let's see where we are on talking about some things going to the phones. Love this question. Hannah's calling us from Seattle, calls on YouTube, watches on YouTube. By the way, you can get the show on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcasts. We do post all the programs as podcasts on the different platforms. Or you could drive by my house if you want to. I'll just talk to you about this stuff and we can sit on the patio. All right. But here's what Hannah is thinking about. How do I move on from past mistakes and forgive myself? Great question. Hannah, I keep going back to the past. It stops me from growing. What techniques can I use to dispute those negative thoughts? Hannah, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Thank you, Dr. Cloud. I really appreciate you being on your show.
You're very welcome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Tell me what kind of stuff from the past that you keep having these thoughts about. What's going on there?
Oh, okay. So I'll give you a little story. So 3 years ago, I got married to my husband, and unfortunately, he's an alcoholic. So when we were dating, and we dated for about 2.5 years, I saw some signs. We didn't live together. I saw some signs, and my friends tried to tell me about it, that he has a problem, that this is not just, a light alcohol consumption here and there. It's a problem.
That's interesting. What did your friends say? How did they do that? Those are good friends.
Yes, they're amazing. My friends, they try to do it in a good way. They are really gentle with me. They're like, did you know that, he is drunk, or he drank the time we were together? Or they were kind of trying to point it out, but I already knew that, for them, drinking is not okay, period. And I thought, okay. No big deal. but it was more than
Yeah,
just
they
drinking.
think all they think all drinking is bad, so they weren't credible witnesses in your view.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
That's what
so
happened.
all right,
For sure.
so you married an alcoholic. So what's going on with what's going on in your head? You said, how can you stop the negative thoughts? What are you wanting to move on from? What's
Yes,
Tell me
so
about your question.
yes, my question is when we get in a fight or when after a night of him drinking, I start beating myself up. I go back to my past and like, oh, this was the sign and this is what I ignored. This was the red flag for me. I start going back there and just thinking about those things instead of and beating myself up and like why did I do this? Why did I marry him knowing he has a problem? So this is where I get
What?
stuck and
How
I
do you?
don't know
Is that
how to
is that a real question? Is that a real question?
well, I'm not quite sure what you mean by is that a real question. I
Is
feel
that
like
that?
there
It's
is a
exactly no. Hold on a second. Is exactly what I mean.
uh
Is that, in other words,
mhm.
a real question is a question that I don't know the answer to, and I'm trying to find an answer. That's a real question.
Mm,
Some people use criticism and self loathing and self judgment in the form of questions. How could I have
I
done that?
see.
What was I thinking? I'm such an idiot. That's not a question at all. So I'm asking
I
you,
see what you mean.
when you look
Uh-huh.
back, is that a real question? What was it about me that made me ignore all of that? Is it a criticism or is it a question?
I think it's more of criticism, but then I do question myself of why did I not. I mean, it's a little bit of both. Mostly criticism, I think.
All right. Great insight. I want you to learn this. I want all of our listeners to learn this. I was talking to
Mm,
somebody the other day, and they feel like they're not really doing anything with their talents and resources and abilities. And all this. It's like it's like what am I doing with my life? I mean, what am I doing with the? I'm not. What am I? I go, is that a real question? It wasn't a real question. Okay. Really,
mhm.
really,
I see.
really, really important. This is what I want you to hear. I
Mm,
want you to say, look, I'm going to treat myself like somebody that's coming to me for help. Now, if somebody
mhm.
were coming for you
Okay.
for help, you might very well ask that question. You might very well say, so tell me, what do you think was going on when you saw these signs? What do you think was going on with you that made you just ignore them and keep going? Now, if I ask you
Okay.
that question, a real question, what might you say to me?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, first, a fear. A fear if
Ah,
I tell my parents, for example, that he's drinking, that they would not let me marry him. Um, uh, it was really close to the
so
wedding that
so
I really.
so you care more about what your parents think than the life that you're going to have to live.
It's true. For sure.
So, okay, for sure. So now we've gotten to another layer of the problem, right?
Oh,
Which probably, are
too
you
many
still
layers.
married to him? Are you still married to him?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Have you, and you said earlier that when you have an argument with him about it when he's been drinking, right?
Hmm.
Oh, generally speaking, arguments with inebriated people are not helpful.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so
I
why
do know that.
so why don't you ask yourself a new question?
Okay.
What do people do that are married to alcoholics that have the greatest chance of turning that into a new direction? What do they do?
Mm.
You have any
I
ideas?
feel like I know the right. I feel like I know the right answer,
What
but
is the right answer? What is the right answer?
they put a boundary and they stick to it.
That is
Is
one
that
part of
true?
that's one part of what they do. But let's just take that one, and then I got to hustle and get some other people. Let's just take that one.
Mm.
They put, and I say,
Hmm.
okay, that's what successful people do. Now, why aren't? I'm going to ask you another question. So, why don't you do that?
Again, I think going back to I don't. I'm afraid to give him a boundary because I feel like our marriage is gonna fall apart
Okay,
because he said if you ever put me he said if you ever give me this or that, like an option, like a boundary, I forgot the word he used, that I will
ultimatum.
lose. I will
Probably use the
always,
word ultimatum.
yes, right. Um he said you will lose because I won't choose what you want me to choose. And that scared me.
Okay,
And I
so
feel like I if I
we're back to the same word, which is fear, right?
yes.
The same word that you came to when you asked the real question before: fear of your parents, fear of what he's going to do. So there's a fear that's keeping you bound.
Mm, yes.
Okay. So, what do people who have successful people who have fears, what do they do?
They probably do it anyway, regardless how they feel.
I've never
Is
seen
that
that. I've
correct?
never seen that. I've never seen that as a first
I
step.
don't know. I don't know what they do.
Yeah. Now they end up doing that, right? But that's not the first step. First step is they go talk to somebody
Mhm,
who can help them figure out the right steps to take given their circumstances. So here's what I would like, or what I would suggest.
mhm,
I would suggest that you go talk to a really good alcohol counselor, somebody that's dealt with this 10,000 times. And I'd like for you to invite your husband to go with you. Okay. But if he doesn't go, go
mhm,
yourself, or you could go to an Al Anon meeting and just begin to listen and learn as to how people deal with those fears and how they
mhm,
live and the different paths that are available. That would be my suggestion. And your rumination that you called about, your original question, is basically
mhm.
there because it's filling up a vacuum of inactivity that fear
Mm,
has you
gotcha.
bound with. So once you start to get active about doing some things that might help you, and I'm not asking you to do anything that's scary. It's not scary to go to an Al-Anon meeting. Nobody's going to bite you. It's not
Mhm,
scary to go talk to a counselor. You can reject everything they say. But
mhm.
beginning to take action, I think, is going to be uh, sort of a big step in this. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you for your
Mhm.
call. I'm going to give you the free webinar, or it's not a free webinar. People have to pay for it, but you're going to get it for free. Thank you for your call, because Anna, you've really, I think, shown some people some dynamics that they can relate to today. So it is called The Art of Confrontation, and that's the one that I want Albie to give to you. So, Jess, what kind of questions are we getting posted up there?
Getting a variety today. Um, Someone wants to know, there is someone I don't trust who has sent me a message. Am I obligated to acknowledge it or respond to it? What should I do?
Did they say any more than that?
They did say that it was a letter in the mail.
But we don't know what the letter says.
We do not.
Obligated? Obligations, for the most part, tend to come from mutually agreed upon covenants. So if I've talked to this person and I've said, if you ever send me a message, I'll respond to it, then I'm obligated to respond to it. But just because somebody sends you a message, um, you haven't agreed to do anything. And if I didn't trust them, I don't know, there's 1,000 ways. Sometimes it's kind of fun. I mean, what do you think about this, Jess? what if they said, what if they wrote back and said, what made you think that I would be interested in talking to you since the last time I did, you lied to me? I'm open. They could do that. I mean, there's 10,000 ways to respond to this, right?
Yeah. I'd just return to sender. That's what I would do.
All right. Well, there, Dr. Jess is giving me an answer. But in terms of obligation, I don't know how you can be obligated without agreeing. Now, this is an interesting, for those of you who are really interested in the way that psychology works in the human psyche. There's been a lot of research to show that humans are prone to something called the law of reciprocity. It comes out of the field of social psychology. And the law of reciprocity, and you guys watch out for this because salespeople will do this to you. You walk on a car lot, what are they going to do? Can I get you a bottle of water? Can I get you some coffee? Can I get you this? You know, that is rooted in so much science that if you receive something from somebody, there's something that clicks in your head that now you owe them something back. And so now you're either going to give them more time or you're going to buy the stupid car. You have headed down a path if you don't understand it. So if you are clear and you got good boundaries, yes, I would love a bottle of water. Okay, when you want to go back here on the back lot, no, I don't want to do that. See, we don't have to operate with obligatory stuff. Let's watch out for it. All righty, let's go to Lily in Dallas, who listens on Instagram, and she has a radical acceptance question. Love that phrase. How do I embrace radical acceptance of who I am? I'm often present only certain parts of myself. I often present only certain parts of myself to the world, and I would like to live more fully and openly. Great question. Lily, talk to me.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi. I guess there's just been some pretty severe trauma in my childhood, and then in my early or late teens and early 20s. And I think I've always been very aggressive towards, ever since I got out on my own, towards healing and doing the hard work of all of that. Thank you. And so I've compartmentalized my life a bit in that I've taken all of those things and privately done the work. And, I brought, a couple friends and mentors and different, counselors, different ones into it. But for the most part, I have kept that part of my life separate and kind of hidden and compartmentalized and tucked away. And like when I dealt with it, then I tucked it away and tried to become who I wanted to be and what I wanted my life to
Now, wait a minute.
reflect.
Hold on. When you've dealt with it, you've tucked it away. Help me understand that.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, when something is dealt with, it doesn't get tucked away. It dissipates in terms of its power, and it's easily accessible if we choose to or not. Just sort of this kind of like, I had this happen to me, but I moved on past that. It's not like it's tucked away and hidden when it's been, quote, dealt with. So help me understand that sentence.
So I've done the counseling and anything that comes up, I then take that and whatever. And I think the overriding thing that I'm dealing with right now is this sense of shame that's attached to identity, that because of like a sense of lack of agency from what has happened, and wishing that I don't know, things like, okay, so when I was a kid, I was in a family that had a lot of influence and kind of like a platform position. And so we had one
life on stage, and there was another one off stage.
Mm.
And you know, I hated it. I hated all of it. There was nothing about my childhood that
That's awful. Let me just give you a little piece of information here that might also make you feel better. I remember a long time ago in a lot of abuse research, and where, when children get hurt in various ways and scenarios, the most difficult recovery path comes from kids that grow up in homes and they're being hurt in some way, specifically if they're being abused, and the parents or the family is seen by the community as really good people.
Yeah.
It's the most difficult path. It's so invalidating. It's so invalidating. So I feel for you.
Thank you. What is challenging about that is that the next relationship that I got into after that was another couple that basically were the same thing, and it ended really poorly and had trauma in that relationship as well, some abuse, and it was really traumatic. And so when that one ended, I was so, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like I couldn't even think clearly. Like I was so clouded and like just dizzied by that experience having happened straight after.
Or it happened again,
kind of thing.
right?
Right. And so
so that's always even more powerful.
Yeah. So I just did what I needed to do to keep working at everything. But in recent times, this last year, I really went after some really difficult things with my family, as far as internally for me, working through some really painful stuff, and came to terms with a lot of it. But then recently, this stuff is coming up, and I feel
all right. Well, in
light
light
of
of time,
on the run.
we're kind of up against the clock. But tell me your question. It sounds like you're still in the process of working through a lot of it.
How do I accept the life that I've had in the past that came through trauma, and being who I am today? Like I hide all of that from people. I hide the family I grew
wait a minute.
up in.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. It seems like you're equating acceptance with revealing.
Maybe, yeah.
I would get rid of
like
that.
I'm on the run.
I'd get rid of that formula.
Okay.
Acceptance has a lot of different meanings, and this may be kind of what really helps here. Lily, acceptance begins, the most foundational psychological meaning of acceptance is that we agree with something as being true. Okay? It's like when people go through grief, there's a protest phase of grief. You watch somebody, if you just watch a TV show and somebody's in ICU and they goes flatline, and the doctor comes out and shakes his head and says, we couldn't save him. The spouse or the family member, initially you're going to see a no, and they scream no. That's the protest part of the grief cycle. But then as they work through that anger, and as you said, resolve things, they get to a phase that historically, now these don't always work in a linear fashion, but they get to a phase of what we call acceptance. They have now accepted he really is dead. Okay? So that's the first thing. And that's the doorway that actually allows us, which you have done. You have accepted this is true. You have been abused in some ways. And that's a beautiful thing that you have done. Now, once you've done that, you can open up the door to inviting people into that world who are safe and revealing that and provide healing, right? Now, the second aspect of acceptance is when people say, well, that's unacceptable. Well, that's cool if what you mean by that is you're going to set boundaries, and I want you to, you have accepted the reality of what happened to you, but now you've got a new phase in your life where that's unacceptable to be treated that way, and I'm no longer going to accept that into my life.
Okay.
And those are two different forms of acceptance. Now, what you seem to be asking about is, if I've accepted it and I'm dealing with it, then why don't I share it with everybody? Right?
Why do I feel so much shame? I feel like I'm trying to outrun.
Well, then
who
that's why I said the initial thing about when you said you've worked through it. I don't think it's fully healed yet.
Yeah.
So you can have an absence of shame. Don't equate an absence of shame with wanting to let everybody see it, because not everybody is safe. Jesus was not ashamed of himself, but he did say there are some people he wouldn't reveal this to because he knew what was in their hearts. So you may be doing a very good determination of looking at the world. Not everybody's safe. And so it may be very wise of you to not share this with certain people, but share it with others.
Okay.
And what's going to overcome the shame is not that you share it with the world, but that you have enough people that are good that can love you in it, that you can share it with them to heal it. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay. I wish I could talk more. I got to run today. We're up against the clock. But I'm going to gift you, I have a webinar called Healing Our Brokenness, or Restoring Our Brokenness. And it's going to go a lot into a lot of things that get into what we were just talking about. It's like I said, 2.5 hour. You don't have to watch it all at once. You don't have to watch it at all if you don't want to, but
I definitely will watch it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If it's helpful to you, and God bless you for your courage and continue on this path, and let others, and I'm going to say one more thing. Acceptance, self-acceptance, what's happened to you is always the fruit of other acceptance. So we learn to accept ourselves because we've been accepted by others. So that's why I want you to have a very small, close-knit circle where people can know what's happened to you, and their acceptance of you is going to diminish the shame. That'll go away to the degree that you feel acceptance from them. And it's interesting that abuse victims, by and large, feel ashamed, which is a funny trick the mind plays on us, because it wasn't your fault, but it makes you feel damaged and it makes you feel inferior and all this kind of stuff. And then when you share it with people who have empathy for you, the shame gets replaced by empathy. And that's how the shame diminishes. So hope that is helpful to you. And thank you so much for your call. We are just about out of time. I want to ask Jessica, though, for one more question. They got posted. I don't know what it is, but we are trying to take we're doing two things now. We're taking the call-in questions as well as the ones that you guys post. And I want to hear from you. So, Jessica, what do we have?
All right. Going back to your conversation about creating habits, how is it that we get sick of something? I was on a strict diet for almost 2 years when I suddenly felt revolted by it and I couldn't bring myself to eat another bite.
What were you eating?
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't what I was eating. It was the person on Facebook.
No, I'm not talking. I might get sick of it too. It's like, one of the things we know, generally speaking, about diets is there's this thing called sustainability. I mean, we can go through anything for limited periods of time, but some plans and some exercise regimens, some financial plans, some self-deprivation, all that kind of stuff is not sustainable, because no human being can continue in their right minds can continue to do this forever when it's that depriving. And most of the good let's call them diet plans, which really aren't diets. They're not diet plans at all. They're change of lifestyle plans where people begin to eat in sustainable ways that are healthy. Basically, you know what they eat like people eat that aren't overweight. Duh. I mean, why do we need rocket science? It's so interesting to me when people get sober and they go into recovery. They're acting like, in some ways, going into recovery is like some special program. But what do people in recovery do? They just do what sober people do. They get together with some people that care about them. They open up about their lives. They ask God to lead them. They turn their wills over to God. They do moral inventories of themselves to make sure they're clean and confessing things all the time. They take steps of growth. They serve others. Oh, so I'm going to finish that program and then I'm going to go back to my life. Well, then you're going to fall off the wagon because that's not what healthy people do, is ignore all those things. So anyway, maybe why you got sick of it was any human would get sick of whatever you gutted out for 2 years. Or, don't know what it was, but if it were sustainable and if it were normal, then there may be a good side of this. That there's a strength part of you that had taken this previously as a loss of freedom and not a choice. And now you're rebelling against it, saying, I'm going to get back in my control life. I'm going to be an adult. I don't have to do what this diet tells me. And that might be a good part of this as long as you use that freedom to self-control. A third option of psychologically what might be going on with you is that something might be triggering some sort of new need state or some sort of other something inside of you that really needs attention. And you have to pay attention to it. So the way you give it attention isn't through just gratification. Okay? Hope that helps. It has been great being with you guys today. I always love being with you. You're the greatest in the world. You just are the best audience in the whole world. Let me say a couple of things. Tomorrow we will be here and hopefully around the same time. So tune in, tell your friends to join. And remember, go over to boundaries.me. Don't walk, run. Click. Go to boundaries.me, sign up, become a subscriber, and you'll get all of the programs and all of the, not programs, the shows, but all of the programs, the paths that I have on there to take you through healing, right? And change and growth and learning and all those kind of things. Over 90 courses in various topics, as well as many, many workshops. And if you join boundaries.me, you also get a daily, I come into your inbox. Scary. I don't know if I'd want me coming into my inbox every week. Anyway, I do come in your inbox and I tell you something specific to do that day, every day. It's called One Thing. You'll get that little video every morning. I will come into your inbox and I'll say, here's your one thing. I just want you to do one thing today. Just one thing. That's all you got to do today. And I'm going to take you down a path. And you get that by becoming a boundaries.me subscriber. So go to www.boundaries.me, become a subscriber, and I'll see you in your inbox. Okay. Good to be with you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.